You, sitting here, are part of that gentle cycle. The forest breathes with you now. The night insects sing in low, steady patterns, and the air grows heavier with dew. The fire still burns, quieter but more sure of itself. It no longer fights to exist, it simply does. There's wisdom in that, in knowing that the hardest part is beginning, and that once you find your rhythm, life tends to carry its own light forward, softly, without demand. You close your eyes and let that lesson settle deep inside. When you open them again, the fire has shrunk, glowing red and calm. The flames are gone, but the heart remains, pulsing faintly in the bed of coals. It's not as bright, but it's steady, the kind of warmth that lasts until morning. You feel a quiet satisfaction, not from triumph, but from connection. You didn't conquer this fire, you became part of its life for a while. You tended it, and in return, it tended you, reminding you of patience, fragility, and care. You add no more wood now. The fire deserves to rest. The smoke thins, curling like a sigh into the night sky. The world feels vast and forgiving. Somewhere in that stillness, you understand something simple: the act of keeping light alive, no matter how small, is enough. The rest will follow in time. You let your thoughts drift, slow as the smoke, soft as the coals, until even the edges of the world seem to blur into the calm hum of warmth and air. By the time the fire fades completely, you're not afraid of the dark anymore. The warmth lingers in your skin, the scent of smoke in your hair. You realize that the struggle to start that first spark wasn't a task, it was a reflection. Everything worthwhile begins that way, slow, stubborn, uncertain, but worth the patience. You lie back and watch the stars, each one a quiet flame in its own endless night. And for once, you don't need to ask for more light, you've learned to carry your own. A slow, spinning lullaby forms. It doesn't begin all at once, it drifts into being, like dust stirred by a breath. The air carries its rhythm, gentle and circular, turning around itself in slow arcs. It feels less like a song and more like a memory of one, echoing through places that forgot how to dream. The notes hum beneath the surface of everything, soft as a sigh, patient as twilight. You can almost hear the stars turning with it, their quiet spin keeping time, as if the whole sky were rocking something tender and endless to sleep. The sound folds around you, almost invisible. You don't know if it's in the air or inside your chest. It vibrates faintly beneath your skin, like a second heartbeat made of light. It moves with the grace of slow tides, drawing you into its rhythm. There's no urgency in it, no sharp edges, no beginning or end. Only circles, wide and slow, as if the universe itself were breathing deeply. The longer you listen, the less you feel the world pressing on you. Everything begins to float. Even thought starts to lose its weight. You imagine the lullaby coming from the far side of time, a place where creation hasn't yet solidified into form. There, sound is the first motion, the first tenderness that reaches across the void. It touches particles before they know their matter, guiding them into a gentle dance. Maybe that's how existence began, not with a bang, but with a soft hum, a tone that taught chaos how to sway instead of collide. It's strange, but comforting, the thought that even the universe began with a song meant to soothe its own becoming. The spinning grows slower, steadier. It begins to carry a kind of warmth, like the memory of sunlight reflected in still water. You sense that everything alive has heard this lullaby before, somewhere deep beneath awareness. Perhaps it's written into the way things move, the way planets spin, the way leaves fall, the way your heartbeat slows when the night grows kind. Each rhythm is a verse, repeating through endless variations, all harmonizing to a single, ancient melody that no one remembers learning. As it continues, the edges of the world begin to blur. You can't tell where air ends and where silence begins. The song seeps into everything, the stones, the space between trees, the soft weight of your own body. There's no resistance left in you. You've become part of the orbit, one small motion in a grand, unhurried rotation. It feels like surrender, but not in a way that weakens. It's the kind that heals, letting go of control, letting gravity and sound carry you, trusting the spin to keep you safe. The lullaby doesn't grow louder, only deeper. It moves beneath things now, through the earth and the slow roots, touching memories buried too deep for words. It stirs forgotten calm, the kind that existed before fear learned to speak. You realize how long it's been since silence felt like company instead of absence. This sound doesn't demand attention, it welcomes you quietly, the way the ocean welcomes rain. Every vibration feels like reassurance, as if the universe itself were whispering, "You are still part of me." Time feels different here. It stretches and folds, without corners or direction. The song continues, but you can no longer find its beginning. It might have been there before your thoughts, before you were ever aware of yourself. Maybe every heartbeat you've ever had was simply the echo of this rhythm, played small and private inside your chest. It comforts you to think that nothing truly ends, that even when things fall apart, they fall in circles, turning back toward softness, guided by the same invisible music. The air cools, yet the warmth within remains. It's as if the lullaby has made a small shelter around you. Each sound carries a shimmer, not bright, but pale, like moonlight diffused through fog. You breathe slower now, matching its tempo. The stillness deepens. Thoughts scatter like feathers, too light to stay. What's left is only the pulse of being unhurried, complete in its simplicity. You realize how rarely you allow yourself to exist without reaching, without wanting. Here, there is only the steady drift of sound and peace. You imagine galaxies turning with this same rhythm, immense spirals of stars following an ancient tempo they never question. You wonder if every orbit is just another verse of this cosmic song, each star tracing its note in slow motion. Even chaos seems tamed by it, smoothed by repetition, softened by age. Perhaps the universe isn't expanding in silence but humming as it goes, a vast lullaby meant not to be heard, but felt. Maybe that's why quiet moments like this feel familiar, because they're echoes of that greater calm. The melody thickens, like mist gathering near the ground. You can almost see it now, translucent waves, curling in. Delicate layers. Each curve bends around you, not closing you in, but wrapping you in softness. The air trembles with harmony. The distance between sound and self disappears, until you can't tell if you're hearing the lullaby or becoming it. The motion feels eternal, a rhythm that has no need to end. It promises nothing, asks for nothing, yet gives you everything you didn't know you missed. Sometimes, a faint tone rises above the others, then melts back down again. It feels like a breath between dreams, like something alive shifting slightly in its sleep. That movement reminds you that stillness isn't the same as absence. Even in calm, there's life. The song proves it with every subtle change, every soft echo that fades and returns. It's a reminder that peace isn't about stopping the world, it's about finding rhythm inside it, the slow pulse beneath every noise and thought. The stars seem to pulse along with it now, blinking in perfect time. You watch them and imagine they too are listening, following the same endless beat. Somewhere, light years away, other worlds might be spinning to this same song, unaware they share its tempo with you. The thought feels tender that across immeasurable distances, everything still moves together, like parts of a single body breathing in unison. It makes loneliness dissolve, replaced by a quiet awe that hums deep in your bones. You let your eyes close. The darkness behind your lids isn't empty, it's alive with movement. Threads of light twist in silence, following invisible spirals. You can almost see the shape of sound itself, looping and curving through the nothingness. Each turn feels deliberate, each pause filled with meaning. The song continues beneath it all, softer now but no less present. It doesn't fade, it simply becomes the air you breathe, the gentle balance between you and everything that holds you. The longer you drift in it, the more you understand that the lullaby doesn't belong to you. It isn't something you can capture or recreate. It's simply there, a background truth. You're only passing through its melody, borrowing its calm for a while. That realization doesn't sadden you, it frees you. You don't need to hold the song to feel whole, you only need to listen. You realize that most peace in life comes from remembering you're part of something vast, not from trying to own it. You begin to feel your body dissolve into rhythm. Every heartbeat, every breath aligns perfectly with the turning sound. It's as if gravity itself has softened, no longer pulling you down but drawing you inward, toward a still point that hums with quiet certainty. You could stay here forever, suspended in motion that feels like rest. There's no need to move, no reason to wake. The universe will keep turning, the lullaby will keep spinning, and that alone feels like enough. Somewhere, you sense light filtering through the sound. It's faint, distant, but steady. It doesn't come from the outside, it grows from within the rhythm itself, like harmony becoming visible. The light bends and curves, tracing the outlines of the melody's path. It feels like watching music learn how to shine. You wonder if that's what creation really is, sound turning into light, vibration shaping itself into being, the first lullaby giving birth to every star. The spinning slows again, as if preparing to rest. The tones stretch longer, quieter. The air thickens with hush. You can almost hear the spaces between notes now, small, delicate silences that hold the weight of eternity. They're not empty, they're full of breath, of unseen motion, of potential waiting softly to bloom. You realize how beautiful it is to pause, to let quiet speak its own language. The lullaby doesn't end, it simply becomes gentler, like sleep approaching with open hands. You drift with it, further into stillness. The sound has become so subtle that it might just be your pulse now, your breath in rhythm with the turning earth. The world feels distant but safe, like something you've placed carefully on a shelf, knowing it will still be there when you wake. The lullaby has done what all true songs do, it has changed you without asking, softened what was rigid, and left behind a piece you can't name but can feel completely. Everything feels weightless. You're floating in a cradle of sound and shadow, carried by something larger than thought. Even dreams seem unnecessary here. The lullaby continues, infinite yet gentle, repeating without repetition. It doesn't fade, but rather merges with silence so smoothly that you can no longer tell where one ends and the other begins. You feel yourself dissolve into that merging, part of the endless rhythm that began before time and will outlast every echo. The final notes, if they exist at all, are only vibrations now low, deep, like the hum of distant planets turning. They resonate through you, through the air, through everything that exists. And then, in one long breath, they blend completely into quiet. Yet the quiet isn't empty, it's full of presence, of continuation. You realize that the lullaby never truly stops, it only moves deeper, becoming the stillness you rest inside. You exhale slowly, and in that moment, you too begin to hum along with the universe. When all sound disappears, peace remains, wide, soft, endless. You open your senses to it, feeling it cradle you like water. The world, the stars, the spaces between them, all part of the same slow, spinning song that never needed a listener to be complete. You smile faintly, eyes heavy, body weightless. The lullaby has folded itself into your breath. The universe turns gently, endlessly, and somewhere within its rhythm, you finally sleep, not lost, but carried, in the calm pulse of everything that ever was. Tiny grains stick like quiet promises. They cling to your fingertips, to your skin, to the edge of memory itself. You don't even notice them at first, they seem too small to matter, too countless to name. Yet they hold weight, history, and patience beyond comprehension. Each one was once part of something vast, a mountain, a meteor, a fragment of time ground slow by wind and water. Now they rest together, murmuring in their stillness, carrying whispers of what they once were, waiting for motion to give them meaning again. When you lift your hand, a few grains fall, catching the light as they drift. They move slowly, as if time itself hesitates to let them go. Their descent feels like a soft ritual, a gesture the world has repeated for billions of years: fall, rest, scatter, gather. There's no rush in their movement. They teach you that even the smallest pieces of existence can find grace in letting go. You watch them land and settle, blending seamlessly with the others, indistinguishable yet infinite in their shared quiet purpose. You run your fingers through the sand, and it feels alive. Each grain shifts, slides, and rearranges around your touch, like 1,000 tiny minds choosing where to rest. The sound it makes, that soft, dry whisper, carries a language you almost understand. It speaks of erosion, of patience, of the long work of becoming fine. You realize that nothing in nature hurries, everything wears down slowly, reshaping through time until what once stood proud learns the beauty of gentleness, of returning to smallness. The grains shimmer faintly when the light leans across them. You can't tell which ones are old and which are young, because time treats them all with equal tenderness. Some may have once been volcanic glass, some the dust of forgotten coral, some fragments of ancient stars fallen to Earth's embrace. They've traveled farther than any creature ever will, carried by wind, wave, and the slow turning of the planet. To touch them is to touch movement, not the kind you see, but the kind that never stops. You close your hand around a small handful. The sand warms quickly, absorbing your heat like a secret. Between your fingers, a few grains escape, slipping through the narrow spaces like hours between days. You can't hold them all, and that truth feels both sad and freeing. Nothing, not even the smallest part of the world, can be kept forever. It's meant to move, to shift, to find its next resting place. You open your hand, and the grains return to their soft, waiting stillness below. The surface glows faintly as the sun lowers, each grain turning into a tiny mirror. The wind sighs and ripples the ground like water, creating patterns that vanish as soon as they form. You realize that even what looks still is never truly so. Every breath of air reshapes the landscape, just slightly, just enough. The sand remembers each change, yet holds no resistance. It becomes what the wind asks of it. You envy that kind of peace, the ability to yield and still remain whole. As you sit there, time loosens around you. The world becomes the rhythm of wind and shifting dust. You start to see how everything in life moves in waves, even silence, even stillness. The grains at your feet might stay for a while, or they might begin a new journey tomorrow. Neither matters. They've been everything before: mountain, glass, dust, light, and they'll be everything again. There's a quiet comfort in that endless becoming, a lesson in how change can be the softest form of permanence. You lie down and press your cheek to the ground. The sand cools against your skin, and for a moment, you can almost feel it humming. It's not sound exactly, but vibration, the echo of sun, wind, and ancient movement. Each particle carries a small memory of warmth, of pressure, of motion. Together, they make a kind of music too quiet for the world to hear. You close your eyes and listen, realizing the earth never stops whispering, never stops singing to itself in languages older than breath. The horizon blurs as dusk deepens. Shadows stretch long across the dunes, tracing soft lines like veins of light and dark. The grains catch the last of the sun's fire, glowing briefly before surrendering to night. You think of how fragile beauty often is, how it exists for moments, not ages. But maybe that's what makes it sacred. The sand doesn't mourn the light, it simply waits for it to return. In that patience lies something profound, a faith born not from hope, but from knowing cycles never end. As the stars begin to rise, they seem to echo the sand below, countless points scattered across a dark sea. You realize you're lying between two infinities, one beneath you, one above. Both made of the same essence, both silent, both ancient. The sand is the ground's starlight, the stars are the sky's dust. You breathe slowly, feeling yourself somewhere in between, neither fixed nor fleeting, just part of the quiet balance that connects everything to everything else. The night breeze begins its slow wander. You watch small ripples form in the sand, shifting in delicate patterns that disappear before they can be memorized. There's a strange peace in watching something change and knowing you can't stop it. The world doesn't ask for permanence, only presence. The grains teach you this without words, showing how beauty can exist in transience, how meaning can live even in what's constantly undone. You feel the weight of stillness, but also its kindness. You think of how each grain once resisted, solid rock, unyielding, strong. But time is patient. It doesn't fight, it waits. It teaches even stone to soften, to let go of edges. You begin to understand that the strength of sand lies in its surrender. It survives by scattering, by refusing to stay one thing forever. You wonder if people could learn the same, how to break gently, to let the winds of change carry them without bitterness, to see loss not as destruction, but as transformation. The sand cools as night grows deeper. You run your hand through it once more, feeling the contrast between its chill and your warmth. Each touch leaves a pattern that fades the moment you pull away. It reminds you that traces don't need to last to be real. The world remembers differently, not through permanence, but through repetition. Every mark you make, every step taken, becomes part of a rhythm too vast to see, but always ongoing, always becoming something new. You sit up and watch as the moonlight paints the dunes silver. Every curve glows softly, every shadow deepens with quiet purpose. The grains shimmer like tiny worlds, each one reflecting the moon in its own way. You realize how even the smallest parts of existence hold the entire sky inside them, if only for a moment. You breathe in, and the night feels full, not empty. Everything, even stillness, seems to pulse gently, alive in its quietness, aware of its own fragile eternity. A distant gust passes, reshaping the dunes. The sound is soft, almost like the sigh of someone half asleep. You watch the pattern shift, knowing it will never be exactly the same again. The wind writes its stories across the surface, temporary but sincere. Maybe that's all art ever is, a gesture toward beauty, knowing it won't last. You let that thought settle, realizing that impermanence doesn't diminish creation, it makes every act of making more sacred, more tenderly human. You pick up a handful again, letting it trickle through your fingers. The stream flows like liquid light under the moon. For a second, you imagine each grain as a moment in your life, small, countless, passing too quickly to hold. But together, they form something vast, something that still carries warmth. Maybe meaning isn't in the single grain, but in the way they fall, the rhythm they make as they move from one place to another, the sound of time softening itself through you. The night grows cooler, and the sound of the distant ocean reaches your ears. Its low rhythm matches the pulse of your heart. You realize that everything around you is part of the same choreography: wind, sand, tide, breath. Each moves differently but to the same ancient tempo. You feel the boundaries between self and world begin to blur, your heartbeat sinking to something greater. You are no longer watching the world, you are being watched by it, gently, like a wave tracing the edge of your being. A shooting star crosses the sky, silent but brilliant. Its light fades quickly, swallowed by distance. You look down, half expecting to find its reflection in the sand. The grains shimmer faintly, as if remembering what light feels like. You think about how even falling stars become part of this same dust eventually, cooling, breaking, joining the endless circle. Nothing is lost, only changed, only carried forward into a quieter form of being. The night holds that truth without speaking it. You rest your hands flat against the ground. The earth feels steady beneath you, but alive, pulsing with unseen movement. Somewhere beneath the surface, old minerals shift, old waters flow. The sand above hides this. Constant motion, wearing stillness like a veil. You find comfort in knowing that what seems quiet often hums with life beneath. The grains might sleep now, but they will move again, carried by wind or tide or time. Nothing that lives ever truly rests, it only pauses between journeys. As dawn begins to hint at the horizon, a pale glow touches the dunes. The grains catch the new light shyly, one by one, waking slowly from the night's long dream. The air smells different, softer, filled with promise. You realize that even the simplest scene, sand meeting sun, is a kind of resurrection. Every day the world begins again in the smallest ways, through warmth returning to dust. You breathe it in, feeling that same renewal within yourself, small but steady. The sun finally rises, scattering gold across the world. Each grain of sand becomes a point of fire, each movement a shimmer of light. You squint into it, smiling faintly. What was once unseen now glows. You think about the promises the grains made when they clung to your skin, quiet ones, not spoken but felt. They promised change, continuation, gentleness in transformation. You brush your hands together, and the last few fall back to the earth. The world exhales with you, bright, endless, and beautifully awake. Pebbles gather and become clumps. It happens quietly, with no ceremony, no urgency, just the slow choreography of time and motion. Tiny fragments roll and touch, drawn together by unseen hands, gravity, chance, patience. One meets another, and another follows, until a small mound begins to take shape, humble but purposeful. It looks like nothing much, just small bodies leaning into each other, but this is how every world begins, not with fire or thunder, but with the soft persistence of matter deciding to stay. The pebbles whisper against each other when the wind moves them, a sound like dry rain, soft and unending. You can almost hear the memory of rivers that shaped them, the long descent from mountain to plain. Each one is smooth now, worn by the same endless process that made it gentle. When they cluster together, they seem to hum faintly, as though relieved to have found company after centuries of drifting apart. They cling through contact, not force, a simple closeness that means survival. As the mound grows, dust and finer grains fill the spaces between, binding the pieces together. It's not a strong bond yet, but it's enough. Enough to resist a breeze, enough to stay a moment longer. In the language of the cosmos, that's all it takes for something to begin, a pause in chaos, a breath held long enough to form pattern. The clumps roll, gather, and press. With every turn, more fragments join the quiet communion. Tiny worlds are born this way, unnoticed, patient, inevitable. The pebbles gleam faintly under the low light, like old memories surfacing. Their colors, muted reds, soft grays, shades of ochre, speak of minerals and ancient fire. Each one was once molten, alive with heat, before it cooled and broke apart. And now, after eons of wandering, they return to togetherness. There's poetry in that, the way things fall apart only to find their way back, smaller, softer, wiser. The clumps form not through strength, but through shared surrender to time. Wind begins to move slower around them, curling softly as it passes. The little mound alters the flow of air, creating shelter for dust to settle. What starts small becomes slightly larger, not by will, but by design written into nature's rhythm. This is how growth happens everywhere, subtle, circular, cumulative. Pebble to cluster, cluster to form, form to structure. It feels almost alive, though it has no thought. Its existence alone feels like intention, the quiet insistence to continue. You kneel and touch the surface, feeling the warmth the day has left behind. The pebbles are smooth, almost silky, but firm beneath your palm. You imagine the long story they've carried: pressure, fracture, flood, drift. Every one of them is a survivor of countless transformations, and yet here they rest together as if born anew. Their stillness carries a kind of calm courage. They don't move quickly. They simply wait for the next breath of wind, the next grain of dust to find them. The ground trembles faintly as night approaches, a low hum of the earth turning. The clumps stay where they are, absorbing the vibration, adjusting minutely but never scattering. You notice how balance keeps them whole, not rigidness, but cooperation. Each pebble supports the others, sharing weight, sharing space. You begin to see how unity doesn't erase individuality, it enhances it. Together, they form something sturdier than they could alone, a structure of quiet strength beneath an endless sky. The air cools, and dew begins to form on their surfaces. Tiny droplets gather, shimmering in the last light. The moisture seeps into the dust, making it cling more firmly, binding the pebbles tighter still. What was loose becomes slightly solid, held by water's gentle hands. This merging of elements, stone, dust, air, and moisture, feels like an ancient ceremony. The night doesn't interrupt it, it witnesses silently. In the dark, small miracles of cohesion continue, unseen but certain. Over time, more pebbles roll from nearby ridges, drawn downward by faint vibrations and gravity's whisper. They meet the growing mound, bump, and settle. Some stay, others bounce away, but those that remain begin to shape the form anew. It's never perfect, never fixed. The mound shifts with every addition, learning balance through change. You realize that this is the secret of all creation: impermanence as teacher, movement as sculptor, patience as the steady architect of everything that endures. During the night, the wind grows stronger, brushing sand and small stones against the clumps. The sound deepens, a low rustle that fills the silence. You wonder if the pebbles resist the wind or welcome it. Perhaps both. The force that threatens to scatter them is also the one that brings new companions their way. The universe works like that, growth and erosion sharing the same breath. You find comfort in knowing that even what seems fragile can find purpose in the push and pull of existence. As the stars rise higher, their faint silver light pools between the stones. You can see tiny reflections glinting back, a soft mosaic of brightness. For a moment, it looks like the sky has mirrored itself in miniature below you. You realize that everything, stars, stones, even you, follows the same rule: gather, drift, gather again. Connection is inevitable. What falls apart will someday meet again, perhaps differently, perhaps quietly, but always with a kind of cosmic recognition. The wind calms, and silence deepens. You hear the faint crackle of settling dust, the tiniest noises of shifting weight. It's not motion in the grand sense, but enough to remind you that stillness is never absolute. Within the quiet, life continues in its own subtle ways, particles aligning, bonds tightening, form solidifying. The mound grows, imperceptibly but continuously. You marvel at how creation doesn't need noise to be real, it only needs time, persistence, and the steady whisper of gravity. You begin to think of these clumps as seeds, not of plants, but of worlds. Everything that ever became a planet began this way, pebbles meeting in the dark. Out there in the vast reaches of space, the same gentle gathering is happening even now, unseen. Dust becomes stone, stone becomes body, body becomes orbit. You imagine the silence of that process, the way it must hum beneath the fabric of creation. The same quiet persistence that shapes these pebbles shapes galaxies. The longer you sit beside them, the more they seem to breathe. Not literally, but in rhythm: a slow inhalation as wind moves in, a long exhalation as it departs. You match your breath to theirs, realizing that calm exists where repetition meets awareness. These pebbles aren't lifeless, they are patient. They remind you that the line between living and existing is thinner than it seems. Everything that endures participates in the same quiet rhythm of being inhale, exhale, remain. As dawn approaches, frost begins to crystallize on their surfaces. The air grows sharp, and the faint glow of morning begins to spill across the horizon. The pebbles catch that light with shy brilliance, each tiny crystal sparkling before melting away. The heat of the coming sun loosens the frozen dust, letting it settle deeper into the cracks. Creation continues through cycles of freezing and thawing, tightening and release. The world builds itself not through strength, but through contrast. When sunlight finally touches the mound, the clumps seem to come alive again. The warmth seeps through, drying what was wet, firming what was soft. The light reveals new textures, ridges, pits, small hollows where dust has settled. Every detail tells a story of touch, of motion, of time. You think about how everything in nature carries its past in its shape. The pebbles don't speak of what they've been, they simply are, perfect testaments to endurance through quiet transformation. A gentle breeze returns, scattering a few stray grains over the mound. Some settle, others roll away. You watch, realizing that what looks insignificant is actually endless dialogue, movement and stillness speaking to each other. Nothing truly ends, not even a gust of wind. Its motion lingers in the placement of a single grain, the tilt of a single pebble. You see how all things affect each other, no matter how small, no matter how brief the contact. The mound has become more solid now, its shape distinct. It isn't grand, just a curve of small stones, yet it feels purposeful. It exists because 1,000 small decisions of nature aligned, because time allowed it. That's all creation ever asks for, permission to happen. You trace its outline with your fingers, feeling the texture of beginnings. The world, you realize, is made of such moments, unnoticed, steady, cumulative. The greatest things start in silence, with nothing more than closeness. You step back, and the light shifts across the scene. Shadows form small valleys between the stones. The landscape looks both still and alive, both fragile and eternal. You think of how many other clumps are forming elsewhere, on riverbanks, on other planets, in the dark edges of space. Everywhere, the universe gathers itself piece by piece. Pebbles to boulders, dust to stars, silence to song. The scale changes, but the story remains the same, small things learning how to stay together. The sun climbs higher, and warmth deepens. The mound no longer glistens with dew but glows softly in steady light. You realize you've been watching the same process that began all worlds, the same patience that shaped existence from emptiness. It's humbling to see creation happen on such a small scale, right beneath your fingertips. You feel the quiet pride of the earth itself, the way it builds endlessly, not for glory, but for balance. By midday, the mound stands quietly, unremarkable to any hurried eye, yet full of quiet power. It's a promise written in stone and dust that everything begins from gathering, from touch, from persistence. You breathe deeply, letting the scene settle into memory. The pebbles rest, the wind hums faintly, and the light folds gently around it all. Nothing speaks, but everything feels complete. The pebbles will stay, or move, or scatter again someday. But for now, they hold, patient, grounded, eternal in their small, silent unity. A few get bigger, and keep getting bigger. It doesn't happen suddenly, it's a slow, unhurried unfolding, like breath deepening with every passing moment. Among countless tiny fragments, a few clumps begin to stand out, their mass gently tugging more dust toward them. They roll slightly as they grow, gathering what they touch, pressing it close until it stays. You can almost imagine them humming quietly with the weight of new beginnings. Growth, here, isn't loud or forceful. It's a kind of silent gravity, patient, inevitable, and soft. 6. Their surfaces change first, roughness giving way to smoother curves as layers build upon one another. You could trace their history in those shapes if you looked closely enough. Every line, every dent tells of collision, of embrace, of small impacts that built something lasting. The growing bodies move with dignity, steady in their circular paths. They don't rush, they never could. In their patience lies their power, an ancient, unspoken rhythm that guides everything from the fall of dust to the birth of worlds. 7. Sometimes, one pebble collides too hard and shatters, becoming part of another. There's no loss here, no tragedy, just transformation. What breaks rejoins. What fragments, builds anew. The universe has always known how to recycle itself, to fold endings gently into beginnings. These growing clumps, no longer just pebbles but infant stones, understand that process instinctively. They don't resist the changes, they yield, absorb, and continue. Even destruction becomes part of the steady heartbeat of creation. 8. Over time, their colors deepen. Grays blend into silvers, reds fade to soft golds where sunlight touches them. As their mass increases, they start to shape their surroundings subtly. The wind bends around them, dust flows differently. They influence, not dominate. You can feel the quiet balance in this. Nothing takes more than it gives. Growth here isn't about power but harmony, the steady negotiation between stillness and motion, gravity and resistance, solitude and connection. 9. They begin to spin slightly as they grow, each rotation gathering more matter. The spin stabilizes them, keeping their forms rounder, smoother. It's almost like a dance, slow and continuous. If you could shrink yourself down to that scale, you might feel their pull, a gentle invitation to join. Every speck that draws near finds a place, merging into something larger than itself. There's comfort in that, the knowledge that even the smallest things have a role to play in something vast and graceful. 10. When two growing clumps meet, there's a quiet tension, a pause before contact. Then, they touch, and one begins to yield, wrapping itself around the other until they're one. The collision sends a faint vibration through the dust around them, like a sigh through a sleeping room. The new body trembles briefly, then steadies, heavier and whole. These unions happen rarely, but when they do, they're timeless. They mark the beginning of something greater than stone, a promise of planets, hidden in miniature. 11. Light catches their surfaces as they turn, tracing arcs of shimmer across their paths. They drift lazily in the low gravity, following invisible currents of energy and motion. It's a slow ballet, a celestial nursery where everything learns the art of cohesion. Each growing mass carries within it the potential of landscapes yet unborn, mountains, valleys, oceans, air. You can almost feel that destiny stirring quietly beneath their dusty exteriors, waiting for the right moment to awaken into form. 12. Days blend into centuries, centuries into epochs. The clumps that once fit in your palm now stretch wider than any horizon you've seen. The same calm rhythm continues: gather, merge, settle, repeat. There's a strange tenderness to this endless repetition, as if the universe is humming a lullaby to itself. You imagine time as a soft tide moving through them, guiding each motion, each encounter. What was once a pebble becomes a body, round and self-assured, turning gently in a sea of dust and starlight. 3. As they grow, the space between them begins to clear. Their gravity starts to sweep the surroundings clean, drawing in what's near, repelling what's too far. You can sense the faint order emerging from chaos, the beginning of orbit, of pattern. What was random now finds rhythm. It's like music forming from noise, a melody of mass and motion. You can almost hear it if you listen closely enough, a slow, endless song of creation, deep and resonant, built on silence itself. 14. The larger they become, the more they influence each other. They tug gently, like companions exchanging soft words across a great distance. Sometimes they draw close enough to meet again, other times they drift apart but remain connected, their gravity threads weaving an invisible web between them. It feels like love, in a way, not the emotional kind, but the kind born of simple attraction and endurance. They move in harmony, shaping one another without ever fully colliding. 15. Friction begins to warm their surfaces. Tiny impacts, endless but soft, create a faint heat. Beneath their crusts, energy stirs, whispering of something new. Matter begins to shift inward, compacting under its own weight. The clumps no longer just exist, they evolve. Their hearts grow denser, heavier. You can almost feel a pulse there, the earliest sign of life, not biological but physical, heat gathering like a thought forming deep within, quiet and unstoppable. 16. With each layer that forms, they become more resilient. The outer shell hardens slightly, protecting what lies beneath. The inside, though unseen, changes more dramatically, particles rearranging, energy redistributing. You can sense the preparation, as though the body itself knows it's destined for something greater. There's no rush, no deadline. The universe allows them all the time they need to become what they must. Growth without pressure. Becoming without urgency. 17. Nearby, smaller clumps still drift freely, some caught in the pull of these larger ones, others spinning away into the unknown. It's a reminder that not everything stays together, that some things are meant to wander longer before finding home. The growing bodies don't chase or cling. They simply keep turning, patient in their quiet certainty that what belongs will come in time. There's grace in that stillness, in letting the universe decide what stays, what moves, what returns. 18. As they rotate, dust begins to form delicate rings around them. These rings shimmer softly, catching light and throwing it outward in gentle halos. You might mistake them for ornaments, but they're part of the process, a gathering zone, where future pieces will join the whole. It's a slow, sacred kind of preparation, like a planet dreaming itself into being. The rings hum with potential, waiting for each drifting grain to find its place and settle into orbit. 19. Sometimes a passing gust or current will scatter the outer dust, thinning the rings for a while. But even then, they reform. Order re-emerges from chaos as if guided by unseen hands. You can almost feel the quiet intelligence of nature working, not thinking, not planning, just knowing. It's instinct written in motion, a choreography of persistence. Every disruption becomes another opportunity for balance to reassert itself, for the pattern to continue, soft and sure. 20. The largest of them now shines faintly from within, the heat of compression glowing through its dusty skin. It's not a star, not yet, but there's something radiant stirring deep inside. It glows like memory, soft, ancient, alive. You imagine touching it and feeling the hum of energy beneath the surface, the same warmth that someday will give light to skies, warmth to oceans, and gravity to the dreams of future beings. This is how light is born, quietly, from within. 21. Other clumps orbit it now, smaller companions caught in its embrace. Together, they form a miniature system, turning endlessly in shared motion. Each one contributes to the balance of the whole. There's no leader, no follower, just the steady interplay of forces holding everything in place. Watching them, you realize this is how peace exists in nature, not through stillness, but through perfect cooperation. Everything moves, yet nothing is lost. The collisions that once seemed violent now become rare. Instead, gentle exchanges of dust and energy occur as the system matures. The large bodies feed the small, and the small shape the large through delicate interactions. It's evolution on the grandest scale, unfolding in silence. You can almost feel the patience of the cosmos, how it values harmony over haste. What once was chaos is now a cradle, steady, rhythmic, endless in its quiet beauty. As more material gathers, the largest body begins to smooth into near-perfect roundness. Gravity pulls every imperfection inward, shaping it with quiet insistence. It's as if the universe prefers circles endless, complete, without edges. You can see reflections of this truth everywhere, in orbits, in eyes, in ripples across water. The circle is nature's promise that everything returns, that nothing truly ends, that even the smallest beginning will someday curve back into itself. Now, the air around it, thin, invisible, but present, begins to shimmer faintly. The growing mass pulls not just dust but the faintest gases into its embrace. You can almost see an atmosphere being born, molecule by molecule, forming a soft veil around the world to be. The warmth beneath holds it close. You realize that this, too, is love in the language of physics, the tendency of things to cling, to shelter, to gather warmth and keep it safe. The great body turns slowly, its surface glowing with calm fire beneath drifting veils of dust. Around it, the smaller companions trace orbits like dancers circling a quiet flame. The silence of the cosmos wraps everything in peace. You sense that this is only the beginning, the first heartbeat of a world forming, the first moment before sky, sea, and stone find their places. The journey from pebble to planet continues, patient and luminous, under the endless lullaby of time itself. And though the process will last millions of years, it already feels whole. Each moment is complete within itself, every collision, every shimmer, every turn. The universe doesn't rush to the end, it finds beauty in the in-between, in the quiet art of becoming. The larger bodies keep turning, glowing softly as they gather what remains. And somewhere within the silence, you can feel the promise taking shape, from dust to clump, from clump to world, from stillness to eternal motion. Neighbors settle into roles. In the quiet theater of space, the once chaotic swarm of clumps begins to find order, each drawn into a rhythm that feels almost purposeful. The largest among them commands gentle authority, its gravity sculpting paths for the smaller ones. Around it, companions drift into graceful orbits, each tracing its own delicate ellipse through the dust and light. There's no sound to this movement, no declaration of control, only the natural calm of balance being discovered. Everything learns where it belongs. The smaller bodies follow trails shaped by unseen hands, their motion steady but unique. Some stay close, basking in the warmth that radiates from the growing heart of the system. Others wander further out, tracing wider circles through the faint haze. Each has a role, a moon in waiting, a rock destined to wander, a quiet guardian keeping its distance. Nothing is wasted, not even emptiness. The spaces between them are part of the harmony too, the pauses in a cosmic melody too vast to rush. The dust that remains begins to thin, drawn into orbits or gathered onto the surfaces of the larger ones. The airless void feels clearer now, like a stage after a long, soft snowfall. You can almost sense a calm intelligence guiding everything, not mind, not thought, but rhythm. Where once there was chaos, now there is structure. And within that structure, every particle finds meaning. This is how nature organizes itself, not through command, but through attraction and belonging. The growing planetesimals, as they are now called, hum faintly with motion. They are no longer just clumps, they have character, individuality. Some are rocky and heavy, dense with iron and mineral heart. Others remain lighter, more porous, carrying ice within their cold cores. Their differences don't divide them, they define them. Diversity becomes balance, balance becomes peace. You realize that this slow cosmic sorting mirrors all forms of life that will one day follow, variety giving rise to stability. Light from the young star glows across their turning faces, painting them with warmth and shadow. The orbits become steady, like breaths sinking in a shared dream. The larger bodies pull smaller fragments into their embrace, feeding slowly, growing smoother with each new layer. You can feel the steady deepening of their connection to one another, the way each orbit complements the next. It's as if the universe is weaving a tapestry made of motion and silence, held together by invisible threads of gravity. With time, collisions become rare, replaced by gravitational dances. Bodies approach, sway gently, then drift apart again. Some capture others as moons, their smaller companions falling into loyal orbit, circling endlessly like whispers of company. You can imagine the quiet joy in that, to find a partner in the dark, to turn together through eternity. The loneliness of space begins to feel less empty. Togetherness, even in silence, becomes a form of comfort that never fades. As eons pass, the neighborhood matures. Orbits grow cleaner, less tangled. The central star brightens slightly, its youthful heat calming into steadier warmth. Around it, the great ring of dust has thinned to near transparency, leaving only the formed worlds and their satellites to move in quiet ceremony. It feels like the settling of a long breath, the completion of a thought that took millions of years to form. What was once drifting chaos is now a family of worlds, each knowing its place. Some worlds are close and warm, touched by the constant light. Their surfaces simmer with molten rivers, reshaping endlessly under the weight of heat. Others dwell farther away, frozen and serene, their crusts sealed in crystal calm. Yet both kinds matter equally to the system's song. The fiery and the cold, the near and the far, all play their part in maintaining the balance. You see how even opposites are bound by the same quiet rhythm of orbit and time. Moons continue to form, drawn from remnants still wandering between paths. Each one finds its own home, captured by the steady pull of a planet's embrace. The moons reflect the light of the star, becoming soft echoes of warmth in the dark. When they pass over their planets, shadows ripple across surfaces like gentle memories moving over old ground. Every alignment, every eclipse, is a whisper of the same message. Nothing exists alone, every body casts and catches light for another. The vastness between orbits remains silent but alive. Fine particles still drift there, glowing faintly under starlight. They are reminders of beginnings, the dust that made everything possible. You imagine how, if you could touch that dust, it would feel both ancient and newborn, filled with stories not yet told. These spaces are not emptiness, they are the pauses that make the music breathe. Without them, even the harmony of planets would lose its meaning. Some worlds grow restless beneath their calm exteriors. Heat churns in their cores, molten hearts beating beneath solid skin. Volcanic plumes burst now and then, scattering new material into their skies. The system adjusts, unbothered by the drama. Change is expected, welcomed even. Each eruption, each shift, reminds the cosmos that motion is life, that stillness is only ever temporary. Even the most peaceful systems must tremble sometimes to remain alive. As light from the star changes hue over millennia, reflections shift across the worlds. What was once orange becomes gold, then pale and gentle. The colors of the system evolve like moods of an eternal being, soft, layered, patient. Shadows stretch differently now, outlining mountains, plains, and rings with quiet precision. It feels like the universe is painting its own portrait over and over, never the same, always beautiful in its subtle transformation. Farther from the center, smaller worlds continue to circle, their frozen surfaces catching faint glimmers of light. They seem forgotten, but they play their role, stabilizing orbits, balancing the dance from afar. They are the quiet observers, the silent keepers of outer calm. Every system needs such guardians, even if they dwell at the edge of the light. Their presence ensures harmony. Their stillness gives weight to the motion of those closer to the warmth. The moons grow closer to their worlds, tidally locked, always showing the same face. It's a kind of devotion written into gravity, one side forever turned toward the one it orbits. Their still faces glow softly in the light, their hidden sides resting in eternal night. Yet both sides belong to the same moon. You realize that even devotion has its quiet shadows, its unseen half that gives meaning to the light. Harmony doesn't erase duality, it embraces it. Comets from distant regions occasionally pass through, long tails of ice shimmering as they fall toward the light. They don't stay long, but their brief appearances add wonder to the stillness, reminders of motion beyond the familiar. When they leave, they scatter trails of glittering dust that drift for ages, faint echoes of their passage. Every visit reshapes the outer boundaries slightly, adjusting the balance. Even fleeting guests have their place in the great design. Inside one of the middle worlds, metals sink inward, forming dense cores. Around those cores, rock and vapor swirl, sorting themselves by weight. Layers emerge, each distinct but interdependent. The world is organizing itself from within, mirroring the harmony of the space around it. It feels like listening to a soft chord resolving after a long tension, inevitable, perfect, serene. Everything finds its level, from the heaviest iron heart to the lightest dust adrift in the upper sky. The light of the star reaches every surface, even those too distant to feel its warmth. Reflection travels far, bouncing between ice and rock, turning darkness into faint, silvery dusk. Nothing is truly lost in this light. Even the coldest moon glows faintly, like a lantern left for travelers who may never arrive. You begin to see how the universe doesn't waste brightness, it shares it endlessly, spreading it across vastness until every particle feels a touch of radiance. The inner worlds begin to cool, their once molten surfaces forming crusts that whisper with possibility. You can almost sense the potential, the readiness for more. The system has matured enough now to host something beyond motion, perhaps chemistry, perhaps water, perhaps life. You don't rush the thought, it's still a seed. For now, it's enough that stability exists, that every orbit holds steady, that the family of worlds has learned how to coexist without collision. Millions of years pass in this calm, but nothing feels stagnant. The worlds keep turning, each carrying the story of its formation in silence. Craters, rings, atmospheres, they're not scars or ornaments, but pages in an unending chronicle. You could read eternity here, if you knew the language of stone and light. Every mark tells of gravity's patience, of collisions forgiven, of beginnings that never truly ended. The cosmos keeps writing, one rotation at a time. And then, one day, a faint blue shimmer appears on one of the smaller worlds. Not yet an ocean, not yet a sky, just vapor gathering, whispering of rain. It feels like a new verse beginning in the song of creation. The neighbors, still in their orbits, remain unaware, yet everything changes in that moment. The balance they've maintained for eons now becomes a cradle for something else, something soft, alive, and trembling with potential. The system rests in its quiet maturity, every orbit smooth, every motion steady. The neighbors, once drifting strangers, now move like an ancient family bound by unspoken trust. You sense the deep peace of completion, a harmony so profound it feels sacred. This is what the universe was always meant to do, to gather, to settle, to create the conditions for something gentle to arise. And in that stillness, beneath the endless light, the worlds keep turning, slow, graceful, and forever becoming. Neighbors settle into roles. The great cloud that once shimmered with restless motion now moves in calm, deliberate patterns. Each body, large or small, begins to understand where it belongs. There's no spoken rule, no guiding hand, just gravity weaving its invisible threads through everything. The largest world takes its place at the center of this dance, holding light and warmth like a patient hearth. Around it, smaller companions fall into gentle paths, finding balance in the quiet pull that binds them all together. The dust that once drifted without purpose now finds meaning in orbit. Some grains cling to planets, forming thin veils of atmosphere, while others wander between worlds, tracing faint ribbons of light through the void. It feels as though the universe is breathing, expanding, contracting, aligning. The movement is both endless and serene, a lullaby written in slow revolutions. You can almost sense the peace in it, the calm that comes when everything begins to know its place in the silent choreography of creation. The smallest worlds, once chaotic fragments, become loyal companions. They circle the larger ones faithfully, caught in their gravitational embrace. Moons form from captured debris, glowing softly in reflected light. They illuminate their parent worlds during long nights, keeping watch in silence. There's a deep tenderness in this arrangement, a relationship without words, built purely on attraction and endurance. The moons give their light, and the planets return their pull. It's an endless exchange of quiet devotion. The great star at the center hums with steady warmth, no longer the wild furnace it once was. Its light spills across the system in waves of gold, touching every surface, near or far. The inner worlds glow under its constant gaze, while the outer ones bask in faint echoes of warmth. The balance feels perfect, enough light for growth, enough distance for calm. The star doesn't command, it simply exists, and in its steady shining, everything around it learns to move in harmony. Gradually, the neighborhoods of space become distinct. The inner regions glow with activity, molten worlds cooling, rocky planets solidifying, storms shaping atmospheres. The outer realms, colder and slower, gather gas and ice, their vast orbits circling the edges of light. Each domain finds its rhythm, its own kind of peace. From afar, the whole system looks like a cosmic mandala, layers of motion, perfectly arranged, all turning around one steady flame in the middle of infinity. Within this order, tiny dust still lingers, suspended between worlds like a mist of memory. It catches sunlight and scatters it softly, painting the darkness in hues of bronze and gold. You could almost call it the system's breath, faint, rhythmic, beautiful. It reminds you that nothing here is static, not even silence. Every particle continues its slow journey, drifting, merging, or waiting to join a greater whole. Creation doesn't end, it simply slows into grace. The larger worlds begin to show individuality. Some develop thick atmospheres, swirling with clouds and storms. Others stay bare, their stony surfaces gleaming in the light. A few capture rings of dust, encircling themselves in soft halos. Each body tells a story of its birth, the collisions it survived, the matter it gathered, the scars it carries. Yet all remain bound by the same shared rhythm, turning in patient orbits that keep them close enough to belong, yet free enough to breathe. Over eons, the movements settle further. Collisions become rare, replaced by near misses and graceful exchanges of momentum. It's as if the worlds have learned the steps of a dance too ancient to forget. You can almost hear it, a slow, low hum beneath everything, steady as the beating of a cosmic heart. Time flows like honey here, thick and golden, stretching endlessly but never wasted. Every turn, every shadow, adds depth to the silent story unfolding among the stars. The smaller fragments that remain, asteroids, comets, frozen shards, wander through the gaps like wandering storytellers. Some dive close to the star, flaring bright before returning to the dark. Others drift quietly in the outer reaches, untouched for ages. Their paths cross worlds and orbits, leaving trails of light that fade slowly behind them. They carry messages from one corner of the system to another, unspoken but timeless. Everything that moves leaves something behind. As stability deepens, gravity's pull softens into something like affection. The planets no longer struggle for dominance, they coexist, each allowed its own space. The star watches without interference, content in its role as giver of light. Moons whisper to their planets in the rhythm of tides, while the planets themselves hum faintly, their molten hearts cooling beneath crusts of stone and ice. There's harmony now, a kind that feels ancient and eternal, born from patience rather than control. Every world finds its own song. Some sing in storms and lightning, others in silence and reflection. The sounds may not reach human ears, but they ripple through space as vibrations of balance. You can imagine the system as a vast orchestra, each planet an instrument tuned by gravity, each orbit a measure in the grand score of existence. The music never ends. It flows softly, endlessly, the background melody of time itself, the song of neighbors that learned how to stay. The airless quiet between planets is not empty. It hums with unseen energy, with waves and fields that connect everything together. Magnetic whispers stretch across the void, carrying the faint signatures of motion and light. It's as though each body still speaks to the others, even across millions of miles, maintaining the invisible bond that began when they were all dust. Nothing is truly silent, even the stillness of space carries echoes of what was and what will be. The inner planets continue to evolve under the warmth of the star. Rocks crack, gases swirl, oceans of molten metal churn deep below surfaces. The heat within them meets the light from above, forging balance between inner fire and outer calm. Slowly, thin atmospheres form, fragile veils that catch sunlight and scatter it into twilight hues. These young worlds breathe for the first time, not with lungs, but with cycles of warmth and cold, day and night, the beginnings of rhythm on solid ground. The outer worlds remain distant and cold, but they too change. Their vast bodies collect gas and ice, forming majestic rings and swirling storms larger than continents. They spin slowly, regal in their isolation, yet their gravity holds the edges of the system steady. They are the anchors, the silent guardians ensuring that nothing within drifts too far. Their stillness is not loneliness, it's purpose. Every great system needs its boundaries, and they provide them without complaint. Moons evolve as well, shaped by their parent planets. Some are battered by meteor impacts, scarred but steadfast, others smooth themselves over time, coated in ice or dust. A few even harbor faint warmth within internal tides stirring the rock beneath their frozen faces. They shine with quiet resilience, faithful companions in an eternal waltz. Each night, when their planets turn away from the star, they become tiny mirrors of its light, softening the dark. Meanwhile, the empty corridors between orbits fill with faint trails of frozen dust. The remains of creation linger, too small to form worlds but too precious to vanish. They form belts, ancient reminders of unfinished beginnings. To some, they might look chaotic. To the universe, they are simply pauses, gentle spaces where creation can rest. You can imagine these zones as the breaths between heartbeats, where time takes a moment to sigh before continuing its infinite rhythm. The system reaches equilibrium, a balance so delicate that it feels alive. Every motion is connected, every orbit tuned to another's gravity. If one world trembles, the others adjust. If one comet veers close, the rest absorb the disturbance without breaking pattern. It's a lesson in quiet resilience, the way harmony persists not because nothing changes, but because everything adapts. Even in silence, everything listens, everything responds. Light travels endlessly through this order, bouncing, bending, and reflecting across faces of stone and ice. From afar, the system shines softly, a beacon of balance against the blackness. No single planet outshines the others, even the smallest glimmer contributes to the whole. It feels like a kind of wisdom, the understanding that greatness lies not in brightness alone, but in shared radiance. Every world, every moon, every grain of dust gives light to another. As millions more years pass, the system ages with grace. The star's fire calms further, its glow maturing from fierce white to gentle gold. The planets remain loyal to their paths, their rotations steady, their distances constant. You could watch them for eternity and never see haste, never hear complaint. The slow, patient turning of worlds becomes the purest form of meditation, creation breathing deeply, endlessly, content in its own rhythm. Inside one of these turning spheres, oceans may one day form. Clouds might rise, rain might fall, and something might stir in the warmth, something that breathes, thinks, or simply exists. The neighbors, steady in their orbits, will not notice, but they will protect it just the same. Their harmony creates the quiet in which life might dream. That, perhaps, was always their purpose, to build stillness vast enough for wonder to begin. And so, the neighbors keep turning, eternal and serene. The star hums, the moons shine, and space holds its silence like a gentle hand. What began as dust has become a system of worlds, each with its role, each with its grace. There are no kings, no servants, no noise of struggle, only the soft music of balance, the endless lullaby of gravity and light. The universe rests here for a while, content in the calm it has made, before time whispers it onward to new beginnings. Planets move and sometimes collide. Their paths, though graceful from afar, are not always without chaos. Gravity pulls them toward one another like invisible threads tightening in silence. When they meet, it is not rage or violence that defines them, but transformation, molten light blooming across the dark, mountains forming from crushed stone, atmospheres reborn in the shimmer of new beginnings. In the stillness that follows, the system sighs and reshapes itself, as though creation is learning to breathe again. Each collision leaves a mark, a memory carved into surface and orbit alike. Scars become mountains, and debris becomes moons. Nothing is lost, not even in destruction. Matter simply changes roles, becoming part of another story. You could think of these impacts as conversations between worlds, harsh at first, but deeply intimate, where everything that once was separate becomes joined. The planets settle again, glowing softly from within, their hearts molten with the warmth of their shared pasts. As time stretches on, the frequency of these encounters slows. The worlds grow patient, their orbits smooth and predictable. The chaos of youth gives way to rhythm, to cycles so gentle they seem eternal. The star at the center watches with quiet approval, its light tracing the orbits like golden lines on an ancient map. And though collisions fade, the memory of them remains, written in the very tilt, spin, and shine of every planet that still turns. Some of the debris from past impacts remains adrift, forming shimmering belts that encircle the system like faint jewelry. Asteroids and comets wander through the corridors of gravity, silent messengers from the system's wild beginnings. When they pass close to a world, they sometimes fall brief streaks of fire across skies, reminders that even now, the dance of creation is not done. The universe never truly stops moving, it only slows enough for us to see its beauty. The heat from these ancient crashes still lingers deep within planetary hearts. Beneath their surfaces, magma flows in slow rivers, shaping continents that will one day rise and fall. The surface cools and hardens, but inside, the echo of creation hums. That inner warmth becomes the pulse of each world, the quiet heartbeat that will keep it alive for eons. The fire that began with collision becomes a hidden song, one that whispers beneath mountains, oceans, and plains. As the planets stabilize, they begin to find individuality. Some are dense and rocky, spinning quickly, their days short and bright. Others are vast and gaseous, painted in storms that rage for centuries. Each becomes a reflection of its journey, of every impact survived, every fragment absorbed, every dance with destruction that shaped its form. You can almost imagine them remembering, holding in their orbits the story of how peace was built from chaos. Somewhere in these quieted spaces, moons form from scattered debris. They gather slowly, grain by grain, orbit by orbit, until they are large enough to shine. They circle their parent worlds faithfully, mirroring the balance of the system at large. When the star's light fades into night, these moons return it in silver tones, gentle and constant. They are the children of collision, born from ruin, yet symbols of calm. In their glow, destruction finds forgiveness. Not all collisions end in balance. Some fragments are cast out forever, flung into the deep black between stars. They travel for eons, untouched, unseen, carrying with them the memory of the system that made them. Perhaps they will one day find another sun, another home, and become the seeds of a new world. The universe wastes nothing. Every loss becomes a possibility waiting in the dark. Even exile has purpose when space itself is the garden. 16. From afar, the system now appears settled, its planets tracing steady ellipses in a cosmic lullaby. But if you could look closer, you'd see that the quiet is alive, subtle tremors, shifting crusts, internal tides pulling and releasing. These motions are the echoes of long-ago collisions, still resonating softly through time. Creation, it seems, does not end with an event. It lingers, evolves, and perfects itself in silence, like a song that never truly fades. The light from the central star smooths over the scars, but it never erases them. Craters remain, valleys stretch across frozen plains, mountains rise where molten seas once boiled. These landscapes hold the memory of fire. And yet, there's peace in their stillness, a kind of acceptance that comes only after chaos. The planets no longer resist gravity's pull or fear its lessons. They move now in harmony, aware that even collision is part of the path to calm. Some collisions bring gifts. A wandering body rich in water might strike a dry planet, delivering oceans that will one day shimmer in light. Another impact might bring metals, carbon, or the elements that one day breathe life into form. Creation does not always come gently, sometimes it arrives in the flash of impact, in the fusion of what once was separate. The universe builds by breaking, and through that breaking, beauty takes its shape. The star's warmth spreads across the new surfaces, touching molten scars until they cool, turning darkness into color. Volcanic glow gives way to stone, stone to dust, and dust to soil. What once burned now rests, the quiet after the storm of birth. The system begins to hum again, this time more softly, no longer wild, but deeply alive. You can feel it if you listen long enough, the rhythm of worlds that have learned how to stay. The asteroids that roam between worlds still carry fragments of those ancient impacts. They are pieces of lost planets, memories drifting through the void. Occasionally, one finds its way home, burning briefly as it enters an atmosphere, its life ending in brilliance. Others remain forever untouched, preserving the history of collision in their frozen hearts. They are the storytellers of the system, each one a remnant of the time when everything collided and nothing yet had peace. Sometimes, collisions create companions. Two worlds graze one another and merge, their cores fusing into something new. The smaller becomes the heart of the larger, the two locked together in eternal unity. Their orbits realign, their centers shift, and in the quiet aftermath, a new planet spins, not a survivor, but a union. From destruction, companionship is born. The universe seems to favor togetherness, even when it must come through fire. In other places, smaller worlds are caught by gravity rather than crushed by it. They become moons, dancers forever circling the giants that once threatened to destroy them. What began as danger becomes devotion, and what might have been ruin becomes rhythm. This is the strange mercy of space, that even the violent can become gentle, even the fearful can find orbit, even chaos can find grace. The sky teaches forgiveness through motion. Over endless years, the scars fade not by disappearance, but by becoming part of beauty. Mountains form patterns, craters fill with light, valleys hold shadows like soft memories. A world without collision would be smooth, perfect, lifeless. It is the brokenness that gives texture, the cracks that catch the dawn. The planets, in their imperfection, mirror the universe itself, vast, ancient, and quietly proud of every scar it has earned. The orbits grow steady now, each world keeping its distance with quiet understanding. They've learned that closeness without collision is a kind of art, the balance between pull and peace. Their movements seem rehearsed, but they are alive, adjusting constantly to the whispers of gravity. It's a dance that requires no audience, performed for the pleasure of the cosmos alone. Every rotation, every revolution, becomes a line in an endless poem written in light. The outer planets, distant and cold, hold the memory of the early collisions more faintly. Their vast size absorbed much of the chaos, leaving only deep storms and soft color bands as proof. They watch the smaller worlds with patience, their slow rotations a hymn to endurance. They know that peace is not found in stillness, but in accepting the slow turn of time. To move without haste, to remain unbroken, that is their quiet strength. Meanwhile, comets drift on long, slow paths that loop through the entire system. They carry ice and dust, the untouched remnants of creation. When they near the star, they ignite in brilliant tales, brief and beautiful reminders of how motion and heat can awaken even the coldest bodies. Then they retreat again, back to the darkness, preserving what they are. Their journeys are long lullabies of return and rest, like hearts that wander but never truly forget home. Some collisions never truly end, they echo through tides and gravity, in the subtle pull of moons and the tilt of worlds. Even when the surfaces have cooled and the dust has settled, the memory remains in the physics, in the way a planet wobbles, in the rhythm of its seasons. These are the quiet ghosts of creation, unseen but always present, shaping the story with gentle hands. Nothing in space is lost, only transformed into another form of motion. Eventually, the system finds balance again, as it always does. The worlds continue to move, their scars gleaming faintly under starlight. The collisions that once tore them apart now define their grace. There is no chaos left, only rhythm, memory, and the hum of endless turning. In the silence between orbits, creation rests. The fire that once burned becomes warmth, the dust becomes beauty, and the universe, at last, sighs into peace. The star clears the stage. With time and patience, its steady light begins to sweep away the remnants of the great cosmic storm that birthed the planets. The swirling dust that once veiled the system thins and drifts outward, like curtains being drawn after a performance. What remains is clarity, bright orbits, shining worlds, and the clean silence of space made pure. The star burns at the center, calm but powerful, holding everything in its luminous embrace. The storm of creation has passed, now begins the age of harmony. The dust that once crowded the star's breath is carried outward in great, soft waves. Radiation pressure pushes the finest particles to the edges, where they gather into faint rings that glow like ghostly halos. It's a quiet gesture, the universe tidying itself, clearing the chaos of youth. The light no longer struggles to reach the planets, it travels freely now, bathing them in warmth and gold. You could almost imagine the system exhaling, relieved after its long labor. As the star grows stable, its surface calms. The wild flares of its early youth subside, replaced by steady pulses of light. Its energy spreads evenly, a heartbeat of illumination that touches every orbit. This constancy allows the planets to cool and breathe. No longer scorched by bursts or shrouded in dust, they can begin to reveal themselves, their colors, their textures, their moods. It is as though the star, having painted them in fire, now steps back to admire its art. In the emptiness left behind, the last fragments of gas drift away, pulled slowly into the dark. Some are caught by distant gravity, forming comets that will one day return to whisper of these beginnings. Others vanish entirely, scattered so thin that they become part of the quiet between stars. What was once dense with motion now becomes spacious and serene, like a great hall after music fades, echoes lingering softly where chaos once roared. The worlds now bask in the unfiltered glow of their sun. For the first time, they can truly see one another, silver crescents turning in the distance, faint reflections on the cosmic sea. Between them stretches vast darkness, clean and calm. The debris has been swept away, but not forgotten. It remains in the faint glow of the zodiacal light, a soft reminder of the storm that made them. The system stands reborn, simple, balanced, beautiful. The star's wind continues its patient work. Streams of charged particles pour outward, brushing the remaining dust into graceful arcs. The smaller fragments spiral away, while the heavier ones settle into quiet belts that ring the system like soft punctuation. It feels less like destruction and more like refinement, the universe shaping itself into elegance, polishing the roughness of its own creation. Nothing is rushed here. Everything happens with the patience of eternity. The planets, cleansed of chaos, begin to find their voices in the silence. Some echo the warmth of their sun with swirling clouds of color, others hold their peace, reflective and still. Their orbits become the verses of a vast poem, each one different but connected through rhythm. The star is the pulse that keeps the music alive, its radiance threading through the dark like melody. In this newfound clarity, motion becomes art, and gravity becomes grace. The outer edges of the system are touched last by the cleansing wave. Out there, where light arrives softly and time seems to stretch, the dust lingers longest. But even it cannot resist forever. The star's quiet insistence reaches across billions of miles, scattering particles into the interstellar void. Slowly, what was once turbulent becomes peaceful. The light, unobstructed, flows outward freely now, joining the infinite exchange between stars. The clearing of the stage also marks the beginning of stability. The planets' paths, once tugged by chaotic fragments, now follow smooth arcs. Their shadows lengthen, their spins align. The system feels settled, mature, not lifeless, but composed. The star's radiance no longer fights the dust, it guides the rhythm of everything that remains. Creation has shifted from chaos to structure, from noise to a hum that resonates through the quiet fabric of space. As the last motes of dust fade, the star's brilliance becomes undeniable. It dominates the center, a sphere of burning gold surrounded by its family of worlds. Its light dances across their surfaces, reflected back in silvers and reds, a harmony of warmth and stillness. There is no longer any confusion in the system's design. What began as a storm of random collisions has resolved into balance, a masterpiece written in orbits, motion shaped by light. The solar wind stretches far beyond the visible system, creating a vast bubble of influence that shields its worlds from the deep cold between stars. Within this bubble, warmth and order persist. Outside, the universe remains wild and open. It's as though the star has built a sanctuary, a quiet garden. In the midst of infinity. Here, its light nurtures the worlds, and in return, they reflect its glow, weaving a tapestry of belonging that never tears. The comets that were born in the outer reaches still carry the old dust, the unburned remnants of chaos. Every so often, one falls inward, brushing close to the star and flaring bright. In that fleeting brilliance, they release what they've carried, memories of creation, trails of gas and ice that shimmer before dissolving back into the void. Each passage feels like a story retold, a reminder that even after order, the traces of beginning remain. The cleaned space between worlds reveals the full majesty of distance. What was once crowded now feels vast, a graceful emptiness where light and shadow play. You can imagine floating there, surrounded by quiet, watching planets drift like slow thoughts around a glowing mind. The absence of dust makes every motion sharper, every reflection clearer. It is beauty born from restraint, the art of what remains after everything unnecessary is gone. The star's warmth gives each planet its own shade of color. Those near it glow with bright golds and reds, while the distant ones fade to soft blues and silvers. The gradient of light across space becomes a kind of celestial painting, a story told through hue and temperature. The absence of dust means the colors shine pure now, untouched by haze. It feels as though the universe is showing its truest face for the first time, radiant and honest. With the clutter gone, gravity reigns supreme once more. Its lines of pull stretch cleanly from world to world, weaving invisible connections that keep everything in motion. The system feels like a great, breathing organism, its parts moving in perfect synchrony. Even in silence, there is rhythm. The planets turn, the moons follow, and the star glows, all part of a single, continuous act of being. Creation has become serenity itself. And yet, there is a soft melancholy in this new order. The dust, once chaotic but alive, was also the memory of beginnings. Without it, space feels clear but slightly lonelier. The star shines brilliantly, but the haze that once caught and scattered its light is gone. Still, this is the way of the cosmos, to build, to clear, to move forward. In every ending, there is calm, in every calm, a hidden whisper of what came before. In the quiet that follows, the system becomes a place of endurance. Worlds cool, moons settle, and atmospheres begin to take shape. The star's light, steady now, gives more than it demands. It has done its work, formed, burned, and cleansed, and now it simply sustains. This is the golden age of stability, when motion becomes habit, and time drifts gently onward. You could rest here forever, feeling the hum of balance, the pulse of light that never falters. The cleared stage also invites possibility. On one of these worlds, perhaps, the light will meet an ocean or a patch of fertile stone, and something small will stir. It might not happen soon, the star is patient. But the clarity it has created, the calm, the warmth, the perfect rhythm makes such a moment inevitable. From the quiet, life will one day rise, delicate and curious, born from the peace that follows the storm. Beyond the edges of the system, the last dust continues its slow escape. It drifts between stars, carrying within it the faint signature of the light that pushed it free. Someday, far away, another sun might catch those same grains, draw them inward, and begin again. The universe works in circles, not lines. What one star releases, another receives. The story never ends, it only changes its rhythm, its voice, its place in the endless song. The star, now matured, burns with quiet purpose. Its fires are no longer wild, its light no longer blinding. It shines with confidence, aware of what it has built and what it protects. The planets orbit like thoughts around an ancient mind, each contributing to the calm it radiates. The stage is clear, but the story continues, not loud, not fast, but endless and serene. In this stillness, the cosmos listens to itself breathe. And so, with the dust gone and the system whole, the star rests in its triumph. The worlds move in patient rhythm, the light travels unhindered, and the darkness beyond waits in gentle contrast. Creation has entered its quietest chapter, the long, golden calm after chaos. Nothing rushes here, nothing is lost. The star has cleared the stage not to end the play, but to let the next act begin, one of life, of silence, and of infinite, tender light. A long, gentle settling into the night. The heat that once roared now drifts away softly, like the last breath of a long day. The star still burns, but its fury has softened into something calm and knowing. Around it, the planets turn in silence, their surfaces cooling, their skies deepening into shadow. You could almost hear the hush fall over them, like a lullaby stretched across light years. The system, once wild with movement, now floats in a rhythm so slow it feels eternal. Creation exhales, and the darkness folds in gently, peaceful and wide. The dust has mostly vanished now, leaving a clarity that feels infinite. Light travels farther, sharper, but also kinder. Shadows grow long on the worlds that spin beneath it, and night claims its steady share of every day. It's not an ending but a balance, warmth and cool, glow and hush, all sharing the same quiet stage. The stars' glow becomes a steady heartbeat, and the planets turn in sync, keeping time with it. Everything seems to sigh together, as though the universe itself has learned to rest. On the inner worlds, molten plains harden into land, and winds cool into whispers. The air grows clear enough for light to play upon it, sunsets stretching across horizons that no eyes yet see. The nights are gentle, silvered by moons and the faint reflection of nearby planets. There's peace here, the kind that comes only after storms. Every breeze seems to remember fire, every mountain the echo of collision, and together they cradle the quiet as if it were sacred. Further out, where the cold deepens, the giants sleep beneath veils of cloud and frost. Their storms still twist, but slower now, heavy and unhurried. The glow from their centers flickers faintly beneath their dense atmospheres, like old embers that refuse to fade. Even in that distance, the stars' light reaches them, pale, fragile, but constant. It's a reminder that nothing in this vast silence is ever truly alone. Even darkness carries warmth if you listen for it. The moons begin their soft routines, circling their worlds like caretakers in the dark. Some catch sunlight on their icy faces, sending it back in gentle reflection. Others remain hidden, shadows that whisper through the void. Their motions are patient, their orbit steady, keeping the rhythm alive when all else seems still. It's a motion born not of purpose, but of peace, a dance so slow it becomes the very definition of time. The night brings with it a new kind of soundless life. Magnetic fields hum quietly, particles drift, atmospheres shimmer faintly where starlight brushes them. The silence is not emptiness, it's fullness beyond noise, a vast, breathing calm. You can imagine it wrapping around each world like a soft blanket, pressing no weight, only serenity. Even the cold feels kind here, as though it has learned tenderness from the light it once opposed. The light fades from the upper layers of clouds, revealing the deeper tones of each world, blues darkening to indigo, golds to amber, reds to the color of cooled flame. The beauty of it lies not in brilliance but in restraint. The universe no longer needs to shout. Its whisper is enough. The night stretches on, smooth and complete, as though the cosmos has finally found comfort in its own stillness. On some worlds, thin mists rise where heat meets cool air. They drift like dreams over mountains and valleys, reflecting the dim glow of distant moons. You could almost call it memory taking form, the breath of the world remembering its fiery birth, now softened by time. Every swirl of vapor, every shimmer in the dark, tells the story of transition, of chaos turned to quiet. Nothing here rushes anymore. Everything simply is. Farther still, in the regions beyond the last planet, faint dust lingers, glowing under the star's last touch. It drifts like slow snowfall through the dark, marking the boundary between this system and the next. The wind of the star continues outward, thinning but persistent, carrying whispers of its light to places unseen. The night here is endless, but never lifeless. It holds echoes of every spark that ever burned. The star's glow remains the anchor. Every orbit, every movement finds its rhythm through that gentle radiance. The planets no longer compete for warmth, they share it, each reflecting a little of what they receive. Together they form a kind of cosmic harmony, silent yet unbroken. It's a lesson written across light years that balance is not stillness, but motion softened by understanding. In their quiet circles, the worlds prove that peace can move. The surfaces cool and crack, forming valleys where future oceans might one day rest. The air begins to slow its currents, settling into predictable flows. The night sky fills with distant stars, new suns rising in the distance, old ones fading. It's a reminder that every calm is temporary, every silence part of something larger. But for now, in this pocket of creation, the quiet reigns, deep and undisturbed, as if time itself has curled up to sleep. On one of these cooling worlds, lightning still flickers occasionally, soft, blue flashes within gathering clouds. It's the planet's last sigh of youth, energy finding release before complete calm. The flashes illuminate the land for a heartbeat at a time, revealing plains of stone and the faint shimmer of forming seas. Then darkness returns, vast and forgiving. Even the storms have learned to whisper rather than roar. The outer planets remain majestic in their remoteness, wrapped in bands of vapor that move like dreams. Their rings, formed from old collisions, gleam faintly under starlight, like echoes of forgotten motion. Every rotation reveals new shades, soft as brushstrokes across endless canvas. The night has not dimmed them, it has only deepened their beauty. In stillness, their vastness becomes apparent, their patience infinite. Around them, their moons continue their eternal paths, marking the passing of unseen days. The interplay of shadow and light becomes their language, their way of remembering the stars' warmth even in distance. The smaller moons gleam like scattered pearls, the larger like silent guardians. They cast long shadows on their planet's clouds, tracing patterns no one will ever see, yet the universe remembers them all the same. Slowly, even the energy from within the planets finds rest. The molten hearts cool by degrees so small they might as well be timeless. Crusts thicken, surfaces grow calm, and magnetic fields soften their hum. Yet within those silent cores, faint warmth lingers, the echo of creation, preserved. It is this inner glow, hidden and humble, that keeps them alive long after the chaos fades. Every world becomes its own quiet lantern. The night deepens, and stars beyond the system begin to shimmer more clearly. Their light travels across unimaginable distances, gentle but enduring. From one of these worlds, if eyes could look upward, the sky would appear alive, rivers of starlight winding endlessly through black. It is a sight that humbles even imagination, proof that silence can hold infinite beauty. The night is not absence, but presence stretched thin and eternal. Comets drift through these darkened halls, their tails faint but graceful, weaving light trails through the void. They pass each world in turn, silent visitors from the edges of the system. In their frozen hearts lie the memories of dust and gas from the beginning, time capsules of chaos now gliding through peace. Every pass around the star reminds the cosmos that even the coldest things can carry warmth within. The star itself pulses faintly, not with change, but with contentment. Its fusion burns steadily, no longer wild but serene. Its light touches each world just enough to keep them in motion, never too much, never too little. The system exists now in perfect equilibrium, like a breath held in balance between inhale and exhale. It's the kind of peace that doesn't end, only softens further with each passing age. As millennia stretch into millions of years, the planets wear their stillness like crowns. Their orbits never waver, their shadows fall predictably, tenderly. The night sky becomes their constant companion, and time their silent sculptor. The system becomes a monument to patience, proof that even the fiercest beginnings can find gentleness in the end. Every motion, every glimmer, speaks of endurance wrapped in quiet grace. Out beyond, the interstellar medium waits, listening. The faint winds from this star's breath mingle with others, forming unseen boundaries between systems. It's a quiet conversation across the galaxy, stars speaking to one another through light and radiation, each sharing stories of birth, of heat, of calm. This is how the universe connects, not through noise, but through the slow exchange of silence between lights. The night, though vast, is never empty. It holds the sum of all that came before, the collisions, the warmth, the shaping and the quieting. The planets continue their endless drift, bathed in a light that has learned compassion. The star burns softly, watching its children turn in calm perfection. Nothing needs to happen now. The universe has found a moment of rest, a long, gentle settling into the night, and within it, eternity breathes softly, forever unbroken.